The Realm. Do you know what the Realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire update video. In this video, I want to show you something else George R. R. Martin had to say during another recent interview. Now, if you're someone who watches all of my videos, then you're most likely already up to date on everything George R. R. Martin has said. As you know, I often make videos whenever he sits down for a new interview or when he makes his own updates on his Not-A-Blog website. After reading almost everything he's said over the last few years, I don't think I've ever seen him say something like this before. During this new interview, he revealed some more information about how he will end A Song of Ice and Fire. Ever since Game of Thrones ended over 3 years ago, millions of fans have wondered if George R. R. Martin's novels will have the same ending. As you can imagine, there are a lot of fans who are worried about this because they hated how Dan and Dave ended Game of Thrones. Now, as I'm sure most of you already know, George R. R. Martin has said that the way he ends his A Song of Ice and Fire novels will be very different from the Game of Thrones ending. This is something that we've actually heard him say before. I think most of us assumed that this would happen since Game of Thrones left out so many characters from the novels. There was almost no way their endings would be the same since they left out so much information. However, there's still a lot of fans who believe the major moments we saw happen in Game of Thrones Season 8 are also going to happen at the end of A Song of Ice and Fire. The main reason why they believe this is because Game of Thrones writers David and Dan said they got George R. R. Martin's ending after having a sit-down with him years ago. Now, although George R. R. Martin has said that he doesn't like to write his endings in advance, he's always known what would happen with most of the main characters. When Game of Thrones writers David and Dan met with George in his home years ago, they found out some of the major moments in his ending. As of right now, none of us actually know what they were given. The only thing that has been confirmed was that Bran Stark will become the king. Actor Isaac Hempstead Wright revealed this shortly after the Game of Thrones finale. He said the writers let him know this information was directly from George R. R. Martin himself. Ever since Game of Thrones aired its final season, many of us fans have wondered what else will be written in the novels. Will we see Daenerys Targaryen burn King's Landing, or Arya Stark defeat a Night King at the end of A Song of Ice and Fire? This is what every fan wants to know. Did Dan and Dave actually get these ideas from George? Well, thanks to his recent interview, it doesn't really matter where these ideas were from. Even if he did give this information to David and Dan, it no longer means we will see it happen at the end of his story. George R. R. Martin now says whatever he did give the Game of Thrones writers will not necessarily be in his novels anymore. In the new interview, they ask him if his upcoming novels will diverge from Game of Thrones. He said, "A lot of this story comes to me as I write it. I always knew once the show got beyond my novels, which I honestly did not anticipate, they would start going in directions that my novels are not going to go in. Now, as I'm writing A Song of Ice and Fire, and I'm making more and more progress and it's getting longer, ideas are coming to me and characters are taking me in directions that are even further from where the show went. So what I think you're going to find is, when The Winds of Winter and then hopefully A Dream of Spring come out, that my ending will be very different. And there will be some similarities, some big moments that I gave David and Dan many years ago when they visited me in Santa Fe. That was the famous meeting I was referring to earlier, when David and Dan went to his home to find out how he would end A Song of Ice and Fire. Now George is saying this meeting only lasted for a few days, therefore he wasn't able to give them everything. He most likely hadn't thought of everything either, since this was nearly a decade ago. Now, what he says next is very interesting and significant if you ask me. He goes on to say even some of those things I did give them are changing as I do the writing, so they will be different. And then it'll be up to the readers and the viewers to decide which one they like better and argue about it. You see, most of us knew the ending would be similar because he had been saying that for years. I think most of us did assume that those major moments he gave David and Dan would stay the same, but now he's saying otherwise. Now he says what he did give them will be different as well. I can't help but wonder if the fans' backlash to Game of Thrones Season 8 had some sort of effect on his writing. Although he has always said the fans would not affect his writing, I do wonder if the hatred David and Dan received made him reconsider his ending.
Something that previously maybe one reader in 1,000 would have guessed, but you still had the other 999 who would have no inkling until you reveal it in a book. Now that one person in 1,000 puts it on an internet message board, and everybody sees it, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's right. Now I see the clues. I got it." And pretty soon, half the readership, or at least the internet savvy portion of your readership, knows it. But what do you do then? Do you change it and come up with something goofy and outlandish that you haven't done the foreshadowing for, that you haven't laid the foundation for, just in order to surprise people? I mean, sure, I could have like aliens come down, and that would certainly surprise the hell out of everybody. No one is predicting that, but it would ruin the series. So.
He is definitely worried about how the fans are starting to feel. In the interview, he was also asked about the backlash and his level of concern for the new show. He said, "I do see comments online from fans, and sometimes they email me directly. I'm also concerned about a similar thing with my novel. As you know, The Winds of Winter is very, very late. The last one, A Dance with Dragons, was 11 years ago, and the fans are very angry about that. Now, since the fans are already angry about how late it is, imagine if he releases The Winds of Winter and it had a lot of the same dumb ideas we saw in Game of Thrones. Imagine waiting 11 years to see the exact same thing we already saw on the show. I think that would make a lot of the fans very upset, even if it was incredibly well written. I think he saw how the fans reacted to the final season of Game of Thrones and ultimately decided he better go in another direction. Regardless of what actually happened or will happen, we now know for a fact that his ending will be very different, even those moments he gave David and Dan all those years ago. That makes me think something will be very different with how Dany, Jon, Arya, and even Bran are handled. But I guess we shall see. As always, let me know what you think down below. I want to thank all of you for stopping by and watching my video. I hope all of you have a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.